In the heart of New Jersey's Pine Barrens, you'll find a place like no other on Earth. But what is this place? A forest? A town? A farm? It's all of those and more. It's Whitesbog Village, a place with an amazing past. A place where people pitched in together in the fields and as a community. A place where one forward-thinking woman brought us the big, bright flavor of blueberries. Let's listen for some of Whitesbog's stories. First is the story of the land. This region is called the Pine Barrens, but it's not barren at all. It's actually alive. The Pine Barrens were one of the first places where Native Americans introduced European colonizers to the cranberry. Long-lasting, tasty, and packed with vitamins, cranberry cultivation helped them survive. These new settlers brought change to the pines. Industries grew and the forest changed. James Fenwick, a Philadelphia native, changed the pines again. He figured out how to grow cranberries in man-made bogs, kicking off a new industry at Whitesbog. James' daughter Mary and son-in-law J.J. White built Whitesbog into the biggest, most advanced cranberry farm in New Jersey, the size of 3,000 football fields. That's a lot of cranberries. All those berries had to be picked, sorted, packed, and shipped. Whitesbog needed help. In came workers, many of them Italian immigrants from Philadelphia. For 6 weeks every fall, they traveled here to bring in the harvest. In a time of changing ideas about working conditions and child labor, Whitesbog became a progressive leader in safe, sanitary, and fair farm work. Between 1900 and 1920, Whitesbog was a lively company town with a general store, post office, warehouse, packing plant, even a dance hall. Out of this busy place came a woman of science who transformed our tables forever. Elizabeth White, JJ's oldest daughter, grew up tagging along to the bogs with her father. He taught me to admire the buds or berries and recognize when the bogs were too wet or too dry. He would explain his improvements and in general made me a comrade in the business. Ahead of her time, Elizabeth followed her passion for science. She started experimenting with native plants, wondering if the local berries could be turned into a farm crop. Too sour, too flat, or too small, only 1 in 1,000 had both the right size and flavor. Elizabeth got in touch with the USDA, and soon, she was working with scientist Frederick Coville. To breed the perfect blueberry, they needed to find the best wild plants, the superstars. Elizabeth turned to her piney neighbors, paying them to find the biggest and best plants. They know the bogs as well as we know the streets of our native city. Together, Elizabeth and Frederick perfected 25 new varieties of commercial blueberry. Now Pine Barrens farmers could raise 2 valuable crops and farm all year round. Thanks to her vision and scientific skills, we can all enjoy a native fruit that's even more American than apple pie. Life at Whitesbog never stood still. When Italian workers moved on, new workers arrived. African American, Portuguese, Irish, Jamaican, and Puerto Rican. Farm technology kept getting more efficient. Once it took 700 people to pick the harvest. Today it only takes half a dozen. In 1967, a portion of the farm was sold to the state of New Jersey and became part of the state forest. By the 1980s, people were coming to appreciate this unique Pinelands landscape and culture. Volunteers and donors rallied to save and restore the buildings and bring them back to life. Together, they founded the nonprofit Whitesbog Preservation Trust. Today, Whitesbog Village is a leader in historic preservation, dedicated to telling stories of people who worked and lived on this land, histories found in no other place. The village is lively all year round. School kids come here to learn history and science in fun, hands-on programs. The working bogs nearby are still farmed by the 5th generation of the White family. We're still uncovering new stories in our archival research program. Friends and families love our festivals, campfires, and full moon hikes. Visiting Whitesbog is never the same twice. Explore the buildings and exhibits. There's so much to see. Drop into the general store for local jams, honey, souvenirs, and stories. Walk the trails to see unusual flora and fauna that survive thanks to careful stewardship. Now that you know some of Whitesbog's stories, what would you call this place? Whitesbog is a farm, but also a landmark of science. It is a forest, but a forest many people have called home. It's a company town, and also a community. A place to discover history and to just have fun. And most of all, a place of stories you'll find nowhere else. Whitesbog Village.